VJ Edgecombe was sensational for the Bahamas national team, featuring NBA big-time players left and right. So how many stars are there going to be in the 2025 NBA draft? We'll find out next on Locked On NBA Big Board. Hello and welcome in to Locked On NBA Big Board. I'm Leif Thulin, joined by James Barlowe. You guys are probably used to us, but we got a new topic. It's not summer league. We're not talking about the 2024 class. We're talking about the 2025 stars and how many there are. So that we're going to navigate that, talk about some of the recent performances from the top recruits, how many we believe are awesome. But I also want to tell you guys today's episode is brought to you by GameTime. GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So, I mean, speaking of GameTime, you might want to get some tickets to see these guys wherever you're nearby. VJ Edgecombe, I talked about in the Open, playing for Baylor next year. Cooper Flagg, he's not on the national team, but he's playing on the select team that they're playing against. And for those of you who are true hoops heads like James and myself, you'll know that some college players played against the Dream Team and actually won the scrimmage. So there's going to be some youthful players in the national spotlight soon. And some of them are in this class. And one that got left out was Nolan Traore, who James and I both really like. He's not on the French national team, but he soon will be a staple. And so, I mean, we're going to talk about how many there are, but let's talk about VJ Edgecombe. He was excellent today on a team with DeAndre Ayton, Buddy Hield, Eric Gordon. Like, those guys are the ones you'd expect to score 20. It was VJ Edgecombe. So how special is he? And how crazy is it that he's not the number one consensus recruit? Like, he's most people's fifth or sixth.
He's averaging 20 on a team with 3 NBA players. And he's not like, they beat Finland, they beat Poland. These aren't like, I mean, you know, they didn't have, Finland and Poland didn't have their world, or Finland didn't have its world beater in, you know, Lowry. But like, these are close games. And like the Poland game, they won by 9. The Finland game, they won by 9. So he's not like getting like mop up minutes. You know what I'm saying? Not blowout minutes. Like, he's in there in the trenches, 2 minutes left, and you can't keep him out of the paint. And he's so athletic, he's long, and he's relentless. He's shooting 6 free throw attempts per game, and he's at 18. And he looks every bit the part of, and it's just hard to even put him as like, I mean, we can say he's the top 5 pick, but like, there's so much talent in this draft. I mean, you know, who knows where he's going to end up, but this just feels like one of those drafts that if you're at 7, you're going to get a very good player fall in your lap. And he's been very, very impressive. Watching him at the Hoop Summit, I was like, he's kind of wild. And he still is kind of wild. But, you know, once he like figures it out and just slows down a little bit, he has a ton of upside. And I've been very, very impressed with him in these Olympic qualifier games.
Yeah, I actually shared that sentiment about the Hoop Summit. I watched him once before when he was playing a high school game against Montverde, and Montverde had Cooper Flagg, obviously, but also a lot of other D1, high D1 college talent. And VJ Edgecombe's team wasn't lacking for talent, but not on the same playing field as Montverde. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe it's because there's a talent discrepancy, but usually you can see like, oh, that guy's supposed to be a top 5, top 10 pick. And that game didn't move me that much. Then I watched Hoop Summit, and, you know, there were standouts, and it's somewhat of a celebrity-ish game where you get some show-offs, you get some dunks, but there was some competitiveness to it. Mm-hmm. And I kind of shared that same sentiment. I was like, oh, like, there's other guards that move me more. I thought Harper was better. I thought Traore was better. And that may still be the case. But typically you feel like, oh, wow, these guys are all in a bunch. You watch him play for the national team, and it's a whole different sentiment. Like, maybe the NBA spacing opens up some of his best traits. Like, it makes sense. He's really fast. He's really athletic. I mean, if you watch him jump, it's like when Dickie V goes, oh, call the elevator man. He's sensational. He's a PTP, a diaper dandy, all that. Like, that's what he's going to say. And because he jumps out of the gym, he's going to be a freshman, and he's got all conference written all over him. And Baylor's had a lot of guards, and they've panned out. Like Jacoby Walter was the 19th pick. Keontae George was 16th. And Davion Mitchell the year before was 9th. Like, they've gotten guys, but he's the one I have the most belief in being a star on his collegiate team.
He tried to, was that today?
Yeah, it was today.
He tried to end somebody's life and put them all over social media. And he wasn't gonna dunk that. He wasn't gonna make it, but like just the fact that he thinks that he can, like keeping him out of the paint is going to be tough. And like he can, he's not a great shooter, but you can see like the potential of him being a good shooter. He's not a bad shooter, but like the form looks good. He had a 2-drill pull up today. He shot a quick, set his feet really quickly at the end of that polling game. Like he has a ton of talent, and you have to think like in this setting, his confidence is going to be through the roof when he goes to school, when he has to report, because he's going to be like, I just led the national team in scoring, and I play with, NBA players. Like Buddy Hield is like second in 3 points made behind Steph every year. Eric Gordon has been a bucket as long as, VJ Edgecombe has been living. So it's like he's the one that he's out there in closing minutes, and he's been very, very, very impressive. And like I said, I'm excited to see what he does in college basketball, see if he can keep up this momentum that he's gained out here in these qualifying games. And if they make it to the Olympics, see what he does in that setting too.
Yeah, when I watched him play the first 2 times I saw him, I thought to myself, okay, I see the appeal. He's talented. He's athletic. Is the shot real? Like those are the thoughts that crossed through my head. And maybe they're still legitimate, but I felt pretty confident of the top 6, 7 guys, he'd be the guy that would slip if any of them did. And I'm sure someone will. Like that's just the nature of the draft. But let me refresh you guys' memory for if you're new to this. But I'll give you some of the top guys. Cooper Flagg's obviously getting the headlines. We'll talk about him in a little bit. Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper both going to Rutgers. Nolan Traore, I love him. He's playing in France. VJ Edgecombe's 5th on Tankathon. Hugo Gonzalez is a small forward for Madrid. Trey Johnson, a freshman going to Texas.
Big Trey Johnson fan.
Liam McNeely. I feel like that's a little bit high for McNeely. He's going to UConn after decommitting from Indiana. Khaman Maluach, I think he's going to rise up this board, 7'2", going to Duke. And then Igor Demine going to BYU. He's in my neck of the woods, so I'll check him out firsthand. Just quickly, we'll talk about some of these other guys, but I want to ask a question regarding Edgecombe. We talked about how we thought he could star at Baylor. He's going to have confidence through the roof. Of all those guys that I mentioned that are playing collegiate basketball, who do you think's the guy? And I know the notoriety is going to be about Flagg, but who do you think's the guy who's the most instantly impactful? And I know it's an NBA draft thing, but some of these evaluators like, I want the player to play well in college basketball and show me that they're the dude. Do you think VJ Edgecombe's among the guys who can do that? Because we just saw him score 20 a game in the first couple games for the Bahamas. Does he carry that over, or is there another player that you think is more star ready in the collegiate game and then to the pros?
I think he is star ready, but like in that conference alone, you'll see Trey Johnson. I think he has a ton of talent. And the guy that you mentioned before, you expect him to have a very high usage, and that's Igor Demine at BYU, because the entire BYU staff left, and a lot of those guys left. They followed Coach Pope to Kentucky, and BYU is still in the Big 12. I know that he is their highest rated recruit, I want to say, ever. So they're going to roll out the red carpet for him because, he's going to be the first international guy he can open up the floodgates as far as like making BYU a pipeline for the international guys. So like, I'm interested to see him in college basketball. I see him on that at that level because I feel like he's going to have every opportunity to show what he can do. I know he comes over here to the States to work out in the summer. So like the physicality and the style of play that Americans play won't be like an issue for him. So he's somebody that I'm really keep my eye on. Keep my eye on everybody, obviously, because this is supposed to be such a great class. But I really want to see what he looks like at BYU.
Yeah, we'll talk about him, Cooper Flagg, maybe a little bit more on Nolan Traore, who we've talked about a little bit. And then there's one more intriguing guy, Dink Pate, that I think is going to be interesting to see what he does after he moved from one G League team to another. You don't see that very often, especially after the G League Ignite goes down. So, but first I want to tell you guys about GameTime. Have you guys ever been to a playoff baseball game or just a baseball game in general? Because I have, and they're awesome. I'm actually going to one for the 4th of July tomorrow. And you know how you can get the best tickets for these? Go to GameTime. GameTime is an authorized ticket marketplace for the NBA as well as the MLB, which makes getting playoff tickets or even regular season ones faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA, MLB, NFL, any type of ticket you want. They've got it. Could be concerts as well. They have last-minute deals, flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy MLB tickets for every kind of event in your area. So you can view all the seats in the venue like I do. When I was at the Combine, I perused the White Sox stadium left and right to try to figure out which seat would be best for my sight line as someone who loves to watch the game of baseball. And then the best thing is there's a lowest price guarantee. And if they don't match it, that means GameTime will credit you 110% of the difference. That takes the guesswork out of buying NBA or MLB tickets with GameTime. So download the GameTime app, create an account, and use Locked On NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. So download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And then also, I want to ask you guys about just a question I typically ask. Are you guys watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day long? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All righty, James. We talked about VJ Edgecombe. Let's talk about the guy who gets the most notoriety right here. Let's talk about Cooper Flagg. And I'm not saying we're going to see much of him in this national cycle, but I did mention he's going to be playing on the select team. I think that's really good exposure. But my question for you is, what do you expect from Cooper Flagg? Maybe numbers, maybe impact of the game, because there's all these glowing reviews, and rightfully so. He plays super hard. He's a developing shooter. He's huge. Like, all these things are great. But what do you actually expect when we get to a basketball game for Duke and they're playing Kansas early in the season, all these really talented teams? What are you expecting from a freshman who I think his calling card's more defensive than offensive, yet you don't see those type of players typically go number one? So what is your expectation, either numerically or just in terms of the impact on a basketball game you'll be seeing from Cooper Flagg as a freshman?
I don't think his numbers are going to be great because that Duke team is loaded. And they brought in like some high-level transfers. They brought back guards, and they also have Malauch too. So I don't think his numbers are going to be like. And when I say his numbers won't be great, I'm not saying they average like 6 or nothing crazy like that. But like, okay, he's the biggest recruit since Zion, and I believe Zion averaged 22 as a freshman. I don't think Cooper Flagg is going to average 22. And at the same time, I don't think it's going to be necessary that he averages 22 because, again, they have a ton of talent. They probably should be a preseason top 5 team because of the guys that they got. I think he is going to be extremely effective just with his energy, his defense, his playmaking. He's going to be a highlight reel, but it may not look like your 22, 8, and 5 like Zion had. I'm really, really excited to see him. And I know he dominates his age group and has dominated his age group. When he was at, what was the last one? The Nike Hoop Summit, I thought he was just chilling. And it looked like he kind of struggled to find his shot. And I believe the Hoop Summit was followed by the McDonald's game. One of the two games, I'm getting my dates mixed up. But one of the two games, he was far more aggressive than the other. And I was like, okay, that's what I want to see from him. In the other game, I think it was the Hoop Summit game, he was just like, he was effective. He probably finished for like 9 or 12, but he wasn't like dominant. And I think his offensive game, as far as like creating for himself, is still a work in progress. But at the same time, it won't be necessary at Duke just because they have so many guys.
I agree. And what I think is going to stand out about him in the collegiate setting is just how impactful he is on both sides of the ball will be recognized because it's hard to score in college. And I don't think it's easy to quantify how much he's going to have the ball in his hands and impact by what he scores. Like I think he's going to score about 16, 17 a game, which is pretty good.
Even with all those guys, you think so?
Yeah, I think they're going to put the ball in his hands and develop him into what he wants to be, because that's part of what Duke and Kentucky do, or I guess now Arkansas for Calipari, but bear with me for this point. It's basically maybe for the better of their team, maybe for the detriment. They get all these unbelievably talented players, but they let those talented players play in a style that develops them for the NBA. So their recruiting pitch can be like, hey, we're going to get you to the NBA, to all the 5 stars coming in. I think it's been horribly to the detriment of the actual collegiate basketball program of Kentucky. It's been great for the brand of John Calipari. The reason I bring that up is I think Cooper Flagg wants to show his best asset is probably defense right now, but he wants to show my ceiling's higher than even you guys may perceive if I can have the ball in my hands, if I shoot well, if I distribute the ball well, because I'm huge, I play great defense, I can shoot open ones, but if I can facilitate, that's great. So I think you're going to see like 16, 8, and 3, and it's going to be very impactful. But what I'm curious about is how fluidly he facilitates, how well he shoots the ball, not only in catch and shoot. And then defensively, I think he should just rove around and let everything funnel to Malauch, and you'll see him be a terror. That's what I think should happen. I'm excited to see him play. I'm excited to see Khaman Maluach as well, who kind of was a relative unknown as of 2 years ago, and now he's a consensus top 10 pick. So Duke will be fun to watch. As much as I don't like rooting for them, I'll be very excited to tune into their games and watch as much collegiate basketball as I can, because this year they're true stars, I believe. So what's your potential you think Cooper Flagg can achieve? And I know it's early, but in the NBA, what's the archetype or potential you can see if he pans out at the highest level?
Well, I know a lot of people like do the lazy complexion comparison and compare him to Andre Kirilenko because they're both 6'9", athletic, stat sheet stuffing white guys. I mean, obviously Cooper's an American, and Kirilenko is a Russian, but I don't really have a comparison for him because I don't know. I think he is a play finisher right now and will be a play finisher for a while. He does have some ability to put the ball on the ground, and I think that will unlock something that, not to say that we've never seen, but something that it'll be interesting to see at the next level how much of an individual offensive game he can develop, because like I say, his age group, he dominates. He classed up. I still believe he's 17 right now. I think he won't turn 18 until the season starts. So and again, college basketball is old guys now. So it's 22, 23-year-olds. So it'll be interesting to see, will he be able to unlock an offensive game that he has had been able to dominate? And then also playing with his homeboys in Maine, it's like he has free reign to do what he wants to do. And as he gets along with other players, he's still going to have that same tenacity to improve offensively. And again, he affects the game because he can pass, he can put the ball on the ground, he makes his mid-range jumper, even though his shot is, Leif, you wouldn't teach him how to shoot like that, but it goes in, and that's all that matters. But long term, I really don't have a comparison for him.
I don't know if I fully believe this, but I'm saying this in terms of, if he really pans out, I don't think he's going to be the best scorer on an NBA team. And so the player I want him to model his game after will be like Scottie Pippen after Jordan left. And I know this is old school, but what I mean by that is Pippen wasn't a great shooter, but he could still score by using both athleticism and craftiness, kind of making up for his lack of shooting. Like, Flagg's a better shooter than Pippen was. Pippen was a great defender, versatility. And so I think he needs to buy into the versatility in order to become what he can become. And I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't want people misremembering how I'm saying that. But I think he has the capacity to be a two-way player that scores over 20 a game and is an all-defensive caliber player.
Let me ask you a question. Is it fair to say that there are some similarities to his game and Scottie Barnes' game, particularly the Scottie Barnes that we saw this past season with the Raptors, where we don't know what position he played? He guarded threes, he guarded fours, he blocked shots, He handled the ball. Like, he did basically everything. And Scotty, I believe he averaged 20 this last season, and he got paid. Do you see some of those similarities as well, or am I tripping?
I think Scotty kind of came into Florida State with the ability to dribble the ball. He played with Cade Cunningham, obviously, at Montverde, but you saw that he was going to have the ball in the hands. Flagg at the NBA level, I don't think is going to be an initiator. I think he's going to be a supplementary ball handler who, if he shoots well, becomes so much better because then he'll be able to move the ball and attack closeouts, use his size and his coordination to impact the game on both ends. So I see what you're saying because they're not natural point guards, but they're not natural shooters, yet they impact the game on both ends. So I don't hate it, but I think there are some nuances that are a little different. Let's talk about his teammate coming up next, along with Dink Pate. Two guys taking very separate routes. Khaman Maluach, I mentioned he took a circuitous route to people seeing him. And then Dink Pate, who's taking a circuitous route to the NBA, presumably. So we'll take a quick break and talk about those guys coming up next. All right, so Khaman Maluach, you probably know more about his path than I do, but he was not on my radar whatsoever as of probably a year and a half ago. And then you saw a couple videos talking about, wow, this guy's enormous. He's somewhat fluid. He moves well. He's going to play with Cooper Flagg, so he's not going to have the headlines. But what are your expectations for him? And then maybe talk further about where Khaman Maluach came from and how he's ascended into becoming a presumed, I'd say, top 7 pick. I think that's probably fair.
So it's in the way too early 2025 mock draft. If I had to pick someone, and this again is July, Leif, like we are speculating, and just from what I've seen, I think he might be the guy that drops. I think he might be the one his stock might drop. Again, we're talking about a Duke team that is extremely talented. Let me mention some of these names here. So we obviously talked about in detail about Cooper Flagg, and I feel like Cooper Flagg can play 4 and 5 at the college level for sure. So they have Malauch, Isaiah Evans. I don't know how he works in the rotation. I believe the young man's name is Khan Nepal. He's a small forward, 5-star recruit. They have another center. He can shoot. Darren Harris, 4-star recruit. He can shoot.
Shoots the heck out of the ball.
And they have Patrick Ngbaga. I apologize, young man, if I butchered your name. He's a 6'11 freshman. And then those are the freshmen. And your transfers are Sean James from he was at Tulane, I believe.
Yep.
Yes, he can hoop. Mason Gillis, transfer from Purdue. Malik Brown, transfer from Syracuse.
Yeah, so, defensively, they're going to be a nightmare. 5 of those guys are like nightmare defenders individually.
Right. So I say that to say this. Malauch is raw. And I know his basketball Africa numbers are like incredible, but I don't think that is the strongest league at this point. So take with that a grain of salt. I've seen him. I saw him at Basketball Without Borders. He was okay, right? Size is good, but he was just okay. The Nike Hoop Summit, he got dominated by Asa Newell, like kicked his butt up and down the court. So, and on top of that, he's raw. So if I had to make a prediction, and if I'm going to be the hater, I think he may be the one that struggles because I don't know if he's ready yet. And also, he's not Cooper Flagg, right? In a sense where Duke is trying to win games. This is Shire's, 3rd or 4th year? And third year. He had Palo. They went to the Final Four. The last year they got beat up by North Carolina State twice. So it's like he wants to win games. And I just feel like Malauch might be the guy that's going to drop. And again, he has talent, but I think he's more of a project than what we think he may be. But that's just my opinion.
I wonder if he has a similar season to Derek Lively.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Lively, I think, was more polished than Malauch is at this point. But he struggled with injuries, and then you had to find the right team to play around him, and how you played with him was different. So there was times where he would come off the bench and his numerical stats were terrible. He was like 5 points a game, not too many rebounds, not even that many blocks, but you watch him play and you're like, oh, that guy's got an impact. That's still the best prospect on Duke. I don't think he's the best prospect on Duke this year, but I think he's got the appeal of, look, he's still learning basketball more than most of these blue chip recruits.
Mm-hmm.
And so if he has good games, then like that takes him further, because there's still this appeal of raw upside. And I think it's almost similar to like Yves Missi. Missi was learning basketball as he'd win at Baylor, and by the end you saw post moves. He put the ball between his legs, shot well at the combine. I don't expect all that from Malauch in these initial games, but I do think there's going to be undeniable flashes, and he keeps himself in the top 10.
Yes, yeah, and I agree with that. But in the same sentence, like Lively fell to 12th in a generational draft to Wembanyama, right? This draft doesn't have a Wembanyama, but we just mentioned that there could be 7 like made, and it's super, super early, but there could be 7 like all-stars in this draft. That may sound crazy, but it's July and we don't know. And I just feel like he may be the guy that could drop.
I mean, that's a great.
And they're trying to win. Like, I mean, I'm not saying Baylor wasn't trying to win, but like, they don't have to. If he is behind schedule, they got forwards to play. Is what I'm saying. So,
I agree. Okay, so you led me to one question. I want you to talk about Dink Pate more, because you've seen more of him than I have at this point. So give a brief overview on him, and then just kind of tell us who those 7 players are that you could see at this point. I'm not trying to put you on the spot in terms of.
I got to get my pen for that one.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about Dink.
Yeah.
Dink is a 6'8" point guard, not a 6'8" wing that can pass. Like, he is a legit point guard. And he went the Ignite route. I know he started off slow. He was hurt. He played in the G League at 17. He had some really, really good games. When he rebounds and pushes the ball up the court, like, really, really good things happen. He's got jump shot has to improve, but I mean, matter of fact, if he would have got an exemption to play or to get drafted in 2024, he'd have been a first round pick for sure.
Yep.
So possibly top 15. And that was off of just a handful of games and, just off of pure talent alone. I like the move to play for the El Capitans because it gives him an opportunity to, you get to pick your location, and the El Capitans are unattached, which means they don't have an affiliation to an NBA team. So you won't have to, like, let's say, perfect example, Salt Lake City, right? The G League affiliate of the Jazz. On a certain night, you might catch Isaiah point guard.
Isaiah
Collier. You might catch Collier out there, right? Sensabaugh could be back down there. Who knows? Cody Williams could be down. Like, guys in their rotation could be in the G League. So, like, with the El Capitans, it's just you and a bunch of other pros. So you don't necessarily have to worry about, I guess you could say, the politics of, we sent the guy down on a 2-way because we got to play him. Like, he's playing on a team that it is the G League, and they're trying to win. So I like that move. He's a foreign prospect, but he's not a foreign prospect because he's going to play a bunch of games here in the States. So I like that move. And he is somebody I think he should be a top 10 pick, but if the jump shot comes along with his size and his playmaking ability, like, the NBA loves big point guards, and he can score, but he's a very adept passer. So I really like him. I just kind of feel like at the current moment, guys have a bigger buzz. Trey Orr has a bigger buzz. Dylan Harper has a bigger buzz. Who's the other point guard where you mentioned?
Trey Johnson.
Again, it'll be interesting how it works out there because, Texas is going to have a bunch of guys. So to see what his usage looks like. But I really like Dink. I think Dink could end up being a top 10 pick. And we'll see what kind of year. I think he could leapfrog Dylan Harper if Dylan Harper doesn't have a good year. I don't know if he'll be able to catch Traore because he'll be out of sight, out of mind, and his lasting imprint that we've seen, that we'll see on the daily, is how he dominated the Hoop Summit and how he dominated that Adidas Next Gen tournament. But I feel like Dink has an opportunity, and he's going to be playing against grown men too. So we'll see how that works out for him.
If he's a top 10 pick, but not necessarily a lock to be top 5, that should inspire faith for how good this class is. So we're gonna play a little game here.
Okay.
I'm gonna read off a few players, and you're gonna tell me yes or no on NBA All-Star potential. And if it's one that you're like, oh, I don't know, give me your rationale. So Cooper Flagg.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, NBA All-Star.
How about All NBA potential?
Yes, he has All NBA potential.
So there's one. How about Ace Bailey?
I'm lower on Ace Bailey right now, but he has all-star potential. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of stuff that I personally feel like he needs to clean. I can't stand his shot selection, man. Like he can shoot, but he takes some tough ones.
He's kind of like Brandon Miller. I watched him, Brandon Miller, and Rafael can verify this. In the summer before their year, everyone's talking about Nick Smith's the best player. I said, man, this dude Brandon Miller is unbelievable because he takes and makes shots that I don't necessarily want him to take. But the fact he makes him at the rate he does makes me believe he can score at whatever. I said the same about Banchero. I said the same about Tatum, that I don't love their shot selection. If I'm coaching, it wouldn't make me happy. But if I'm evaluating, I'm all in because you're like, wow, that dude can make those shots. So he takes them.
See, he looked like Michael Porter Jr. to me, where you'd be like,
and that's possible.
I'll take that shot.
I want to see it in a college game because he's just better than high school players.
Yeah.
So all-star potential, maybe not all NBA. Dylan Harper.
All-star potential.
All right. So we got 3 for 3 so far. Number 4, Nolan Traore, who is my personal favorite. Maybe not the best, but my personal favorite. I'm all in.
All-star. I think he has all NBA potential.
Okay. You're preaching the choir there. Now you got VJ Edgecombe. We've already seen what we've talked about him today. What's his potential?
I mean, I hate to say it, but he's got all-star potential. He's got some stuff he needs to work on playmaking, but like he looks like a 20-point scorer very, very soon.
Yeah, the question is how much can he play with the ball and facilitate? But that's for another episode. How about Hugo Gonzalez from Real Madrid?
You got to get back to me on that one.
Okay, I agree. I haven't seen much of him. Trey Johnson, you said you really like him, so I'm assuming he's all-star potential.
Yes, but he has some stuff. Will he get to showcase it? But okay. Put me down for yes. Trey Johnson's all-star potential. That's what.
So right now we're 6 of 7. Okay, then there's Liam McNeely. I'd imagine the answer is no on that one, but I'm gonna.
I think he's a solid rotation player.
Yep, I'm with you. Malauch.
Rotation player. If I'm saying today, rotation player.
Okay, we're 6 of 9 right now. Igor Demine, that's our last one.
Very good rotation player.
All right, so we got 6 of the top 10, and obviously most drafts there's going to be some hidden gems. One guy, I'm just going to mention him real quickly. I like Drake Powell. I like him quite a bit for North Carolina, but North Carolina's got a lot of guards in the stable. Elliot Cadeau, RJ Davis, who was a first-team All-Americans back, Ian Jackson. There's a few too many horses for me in that backcourt for him to showcase it. But I'm just going to say I like the burst, and I like what I see.
You know, I'm going to swing here. I need to watch Jalil Bethel play for one. Yep. I haven't talked to you about my guy, Khaman Maluach. He's going to Dayton. He's going to be sneaky. He chose a great situation. He's not going to have to, deal with a bunch of other 4 or 5 stars like Khaman Maluach. He was the best Leif. He was the best player at Basketball Without Borders. Malauch was there. Traore was there. Quite a few other. What's the big European, the big Greek dude? Supposed to be the youngest. He's supposed to be like the next Luke. I forget his name. He was there. Khaman Maluach was better than all of them in that situation. So I'm a big fan of him. I like Boogie Flan. I think they got too many cooks in the kitchen in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
These kids got to stop going to these schools, man. Like, I get it. Like, that's Coach Cal. He can tell Drake to come to you or whatever. Like, that's cool. But, like, I'm trying to get all the usage. That's a whole nother story, Leif. We can do a whole podcast on that.
Yeah, maybe the next one.
Say that again?
Maybe we can do another one on that, because I actually talked about that on a podcast today, talking about where landing spots are conducive to success and some aren't. And it's starting to get a little ugly with the NIL, because some schools got a lot to pay, and so you just go to where you can pay and maybe not where you play.
Look, so like real quick, like Boogie Flan, okay, so initially you thought it was going to be Kentucky, right? And then I just don't understand okay, DJ Wagner went back to school. He was going to follow Cal. And then they just got the kid from Florida Atlantic. He's a fifth-year guy. He's ready to go, and he can play. So it's like, where do you fit in? And then on top of that, Carter Knox does the same thing. So it's like, where do you fit in if we're trying to be one and done guys? But the last name that I'm going to mention to you, and I want to see him play because I was very impressed with what he did, excuse me, in the McDonald's game, and that is Derek Queen at Maryland.
Yeah.
Big men are coming back. Big men with post game. I think they're coming back. And I want to see what it looks like, because he had a ton of game. And Maryland's in the 8. No, they're in the Big 10 now. Man, these conference schedules, man. I thought we was going to get the good old Maryland Duke. I wish we could. The Juan Dixon, Jay Williams back.
Gary Williams versus Coach K.
Man.
A little before my time, but I'm a historian.
But yeah, it's a lot of guys, man. This is gonna be really, really fun. And I normally don't want to talk about like guys that are, sitting at home right now. I want to get 2024. They're just due, but the 2025 class is fun.
Yeah, we talked about them today because we saw what VJ Edgecombe did today, and it just gets us going.
And then Dink made his choice. Like, we just had to. So.
All right, so guys, tune in next time, because we got more content with the Summer League starting up. We got more thoughts on this draft. We just mentioned 7 potential All-Stars, 6 of the top 10, and I don't even think it's ludicrous. Like, I think it's intelligent. And so you guys know where to find us, Locked On NBA Big Board. With your next listen, check out Locked On NBA for trade coverage. Is Lowry Markkanen going to get dealt? Who's the next big domino? Free agency. It's got it all. But also, we want to ask you, as Locked On, and just ask you guys to think about this. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and it's now also available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the Fire TV channels app. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.